Welcome to Tips and Tricks for the Gamification of Your Classroom. This webinar is intended to be an introduction to gamification with tips and tools that you can begin using immediately and hopefully improve the retention of the students or the engagement of your students within your classroom. We're going to do a gentle introduction to the concept of gamification and then move right into applying it to your classroom, and hopefully give you some experiences along the way that I've seen other faculty and teachers use for their classrooms, and how you might integrate all of these suggestions into your learning management system or just simply your use in everyday classes. And then towards the end of our discussion, I'm going to look at the broader application of gamification as it applies to the real world use in serious games, and where I see the future of e-learning headed. So who am I and why should you listen to me? My name's Brian Burton. I'm a professor of digital entertainment at Abilene Christian University. I teach game design, serious games, and specifically how do people learn in virtual worlds or virtual environments. I've got my information on the screen on how you can get in contact with me now, and I'll place that again at the end of our presentation today if you'd like to follow along. I'm active on social media as well as on YouTube and producing lots of different types of tutorials. While the term gamification is relatively recent, the concept of gamification has been around as long as people have been trying to make rote or boring activities more fun and interesting, or just simply to help our students memorize and retain information. The use of songs, various types of activities, rewards, all help to get students engaged better and to remember and gain mastery of important concepts. This idea of gamification, of using games to help students learn, has been around as long as people have wanted to pass knowledge on from one generation to another. Why does gamification work? Do you use a credit card that offers points? Do you stay with the same airline because you have air miles with that airline? Do you play just one more level on that game on your smartphone just so that you can level up or earn some kind of a badge or an award? Does your clan need you for all of its regular raids? These are all examples of gamification applied to various different situations. By appealing to a person's desire to compete, be social, gain rewards, they will participate. They will learn new skills. They will spend money they had not planned on spending for virtual items that have no use. By leveraging these ideas, by leveraging these skills, by leveraging these tools, we can help our students master what we need them to learn. They can be better prepared to accomplish whatever their goals are. And isn't that what education is really all about? We're trying to help our students gain a mastery, a skill set over something. So by using some simple tools, some simple reward systems, we can encourage our students to gain faster mastery, to put more effort into learning how to do something. So how do I gamify a lesson? There's a lot of challenges, a lot of different situations that we can use to gamify or create gamification that can be applied to our classrooms. The challenge of gamification is creating the right situation that will appeal to your students. You know your students better than anyone else. What will appeal to them? A millennium ago, or in the 1990s, I was teaching a middle school class how to use spreadsheets. Now this was 7th and 8th graders. They were not necessarily enthused about learning the latest spreadsheet software and did not see how it could be used in their real life situation. You know how this age group is. They think they're all grown up. They think they're adults and can't understand why people don't treat them as adults. So I decided I would treat them like adults. I gave them a simple program that I wrote that randomly assigned a job to them that paid minimum wage. They had to then take that job that they received and create a spreadsheet from it. That spreadsheet calculated how much they would earn each week, and then I got a little devious, I admit it. I added taxes. I added how much they had to pay for Medicare and all of the different expenses that some of you may have just gone through in paying your taxes. They got to see, oh, just because I'm making X number of dollars per hour, I don't actually get to take that home. Well, after they calmed down a little bit from that, we encouraged them to go a little further with their spreadsheet. They then had to spin a daily life event. Maybe they had a flat tire on their car, or they had an unexpected expense. Their roommates ate all of their food. They had to adjust their budget in the spreadsheet for how that could be done. Each day they had to create a new budget, a new sheet in their spreadsheet to show that they were learning. Then they had to go shopping. Well, shopping. They had to figure out on their spreadsheet how they were going to pay for their food and what kind of food they were going to purchase for their daily expenses. They had to find housing. They were not allowed to live with their families. And they had to handle whatever their life event was in each of these new spreadsheets. I received more positive feedback, specifically from the 7th and 8th graders' parents, that they learned so much from doing that project. And as a side effect, they learned how to use spreadsheets. They loved it, and they got a little bit of training of how to live independently and some of the expenses that they were going to encounter as an adult. They learned to use spreadsheets because I gamified the system. So I built a scenario. I built a simulation. I added challenges to that, and then their rewards were, at the end, they could show on their spreadsheet that they could manage to live independently on their own or with a roommate based upon the situation that life encountered. This, as I learned later, became a very big topic around the dining room table for many of my students. They would talk about what they learned from developing a spreadsheet as it applied to their life and how that they could use that. And, I'm in touch with many of those students now still today, and it is still a lesson that they talk about that they learned. They learned how to use a spreadsheet because we gamified the process. The challenge then, as an educator, is to create a gamification. It is to create or find a scenario that could be applied to the learning situation that you're trying to develop. You can build a simulation that allows students to experience something, and then you add challenges to that experience. The important thing is that they get some kind of reward from this. The reward does not have to be monetary. The reward can be showing that they can do something, learning something, gaining some information so that they can go to the next level. These are the steps that we need to be able to gamify some type of situation. There are 3 keys to building a gamification into your system. During the day, I'm the lead faculty for a top-ranked game design program. One of the early assignments that I give my students each year was to gamify their degree. How can we make this more gamified? How can we make this more like a game? They were so focused on getting a good grade on the assignment that they weren't being creative. They forgot to create something fun. They forgot to create something enticing. And occasionally we'd have some good ideas come from this, but there was no actual implementation. It was more of a theoretical exercise. So as time went by, I finally instituted a gamified system into my classes. With the help of some of my students, I was able to create a system that included scenarios, simulations, and challenges for them to apply to learning. I didn't have a final product right away. It took several semesters and several iterations before I really got it right, and I was happy with it. But over several years, we tweaked it and until it worked perfectly for my class. And I do want to give a special thanks to one of my students, Christina Bloodgood, for making the graphic that's on the screen. She put a lot of work into this and developed. She actually surprised me with this and turned it in as part of one of her side quests as we were going through the project. By the way, my hair isn't that gray, so we need to adjust this graphic, Christina. It needs to be a little darker still. This was the goal of the class. They had to develop experience points. Now, in my class, I have main storyline assignments, and then I have side quests. These are any project that they are working on independently that they can apply and earn up to 700 points in the class, but they have to demonstrate it. One of the challenges in my field is that many of my students come into the game design program and they're very shy. They're not used to doing weekly scrum sessions. They're not used to getting up and presenting on a regular basis. And so I needed to find a way to get them in front of people and used to talking about what they are creating. That's what side quests did for me. They could present on just about anything as long as it was related to the field of game design or digital entertainment. So this worked. This gets the students up in front of their peers, in front of other faculty, and breaks down that fear of presentation. It breaks down that fear of I have to talk to other people. So again, this simple gamification, which was something that I had already built into the class, works for teaching the students to create and talk about what they are trying to create. So now that we've talked a little bit about what gamification is, let's try applying it in some different situations. In this next section, we're going to look at the most common gamification features that we see in classrooms or game development. The most common gamification elements are badges, achievements, and leaderboards. Also, teams or guilds, and some type of point system to earn rewards. Badges are probably the easiest to implement. What is a badge that you can award your students? Earn a perfect score, or earn 80% or more on an assignment. Turn all of your assignments in on time. These are something that are earned after the student accomplishes a specific task. What can be done as part of your classroom? Just turning in 5 assignments in a row, and maybe there's tiers of this. The first badge that they earn is turn an assignment in on time. Second tier is turn 5 assignments in on time in a row. Maybe major achievement for the semester is all assignments were turned in on time. Logged in, if you're doing virtual classes right now, logged in on time, it might be a badge. Logged in on time every time might be an achievement. These help pull your students into it. That it's weird how people want these silly little digital badges. Get in your favorite graphic software and make a little badge. You can copy after some of the achievements you've seen in other game systems. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, whatever you happen to like. Create a simple badge in Photoshop or GIMP or whatever graphic software that you like to use, and share the JPEG or PNG file with the student, and they can post that. They can put it on their social media. They can put that in a variety of places to show off, look what I've achieved. They can tell their parents, look, I got a badge. I earned something. Perhaps it's mastering their multiplication tables or completing 50 quizzes in a row. All of these achievements, all of these badges are fairly easy, and these are the easiest to implement, the fastest to implement. You do need to come up with how are these earned. And that's probably going to be the most time-consuming part. If you're not a artistic person, you probably have students that are artistic. Enlist them. Give them a badge for making badges. Let them help you create. Now, leaderboards are a little bit more challenging. How are you going to show the leaderboards in the classroom? For games, this is really easy to do. But how you might create teams, show which team is in the lead. But due to FERPA requirements, I recommend implementing leaderboards very carefully. Perhaps make the leaderboard unrelated to grades. Create a politeness contest. Who's the most polite? These help encourage the students and give them a challenge. And it's something that is easily done that makes your classroom control, makes your environment much more exciting, a lot more fun for the students, and integrates them more quickly into the system. You can also create teams, guilds, or clans to encourage your students to work collectively and collaboratively to complete larger projects. This helps engage them further. That we're a clan, we're a team, let them come up with their own name, their own icon or image to represent their team, to show what they're capable of doing. And I probably should clarify that the distinction between badges and achievements, generally a badge is a one-time event or a single event that is done or accomplished by the student, whereas an achievement might be something that is done over the longer term. It's a major accomplishment, completed a series or memorized all of their multiplication tables. The achievement's a larger accomplishment of learning. So continuing with our different gamification elements, it is very useful to have some type of point or score system built into that. Once you've got a point or score system built in, it's much easier then to keep track of major accomplishments such as your achievements or your leaderboards. But the important thing is, what are the rules for gaining a point? What is the method that they use to accomplish their points or their scores to help their team, to help gain status in the leaderboards or to accomplish the achievements? Points and score systems make it very easy to pass information on between your students and make those accomplishments. I know of a teacher that was teaching a second grade classroom, made a reward system. One student, it meant more to that student to be able to take their shoes off for the afternoon. So that became a reward in this elementary classroom, that you could take your shoes off for a certain period of time during the class time, and they could spend their points for that accomplishment inside her reward system. What are the challenges that the students need to overcome? If it's easy to gain points, if everybody can do it, then it's just a participation ribbon. But if there's challenges that they have to meet to overcome, then that makes a big difference. Maybe if you have a classroom that has students with special needs, those students might be able to accomplish the same thing by saying please and thank you after every time they do something. Make the challenges appropriate to the level of your students so that they can have these accomplishments. That sense of accomplishment is why gamification works. So give them that accomplishment. It gives them instant feedback when they've earned a point, when they've earned a badge. They get that instant feedback that helps them to try harder, to continue with that effort. It's a very interactive system that helps the students know what they are achieving. I like to use external point systems that allow students to receive their awards based upon their efforts. When I taught 6th grade, I instituted the Burton Buck system, where I used copies of Monopoly money with my face in the center. Students in the class could earn Burton Bucks through a variety of methods: earning a good grade on an assignment, not misbehaving for the entire day. It was a challenging 6th grade, and I still blame them for my hair starting to go to gray at 25. So it does create a system that allows them to engage, and it worked very successfully with this 6th grade class. The ways that they could earn points was posted in the class on a poster board, along with the rewards that they could earn with different point values. Once the rules and the system were in place, it was fairly easy to manage, with the last few minutes of each day used to administer the system. The students would just simply show, I got an A on this, I get a Burton Buck, or I want to turn in my 5 Burton Bucks for a $5 Burton Buck, or I want to submit this and get a piece of candy. My principal was very supportive of this for the classroom. She was very helpful with it, and I actually got a little box of things that they could earn, with the top reward that I would buy a group of students a pizza. If they earned so many Burton Bucks. At lunchtime, I had a pizza delivered to that group of students, and they could enjoy pizza at lunchtime. So there's a lot of different ways of doing this. On the screen, I've got a image that one of my co-faculty created. When a student declares their major for the DET major, we give them a sticker that says Achievement Unlocked, and these are incredibly popular with the students. They stick them to their laptop, and so we've got a variety of these. Once they gain certain certifications for software or different things that they can gain certifications for through outside companies, we have a badge for each of those or an achievement for each of those, and they can post those on their laptops. They love it. And these are college students. They still love getting achievements and badges. So my advice for implementing gamification in your classroom is to start with one project or an assignment for your class. See what works, what doesn't work. Get your students' feedback. Ask them what would have made this more fun or more fair. One way that this can be done is to create those stickers, both digital stickers and physical stickers. There's a variety of companies out there that I've seen that you can order these stickers from, and they just come and you can cut them out, give them to the students, and they're very excited by that. Students can then place these stickers in their e-portfolios or mention them on a resume that they earned a certain reward or award within your class. These rewards have proven to be very popular with my students and a great motivator. Have your students help you gamify your assignments. Once you've created one, let them do some of the work on gamify another, and maybe create a badge that's the gamifier. Let them earn it. Recent statistics have claimed that 67% of students felt a gamified course was more motivating than a traditional course. So it's definitely worth the effort to gamify and start small and then build upon that. With the recent transition to online by our current situation, or maybe you've always been using a learning management system, there are some resources available that will help you to gamify your course. Depending on your learning management system, adding a plugin or an app is the easiest way to quickly add certificates or badges to your class. Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, all of these have the capacity to import LTI-based plugins that have gamification. For example, if you wanted to add badges or certificates to a Canvas course, you just simply open the course. At the bottom left-hand side, you select the settings menu option and then click the apps tab that on the screen that opens up. You can narrow the selection using the search option. Note that not all of these apps or plugins are free, so you do need to be careful with them. A recent search of looking on the Canvas system found 3 different tools that are readily available to integrate into your class for badges and apps. You may need to do a little bit of training on this, might take a little more time to implement it, but this is a nice, easy way to implement certificates or badges on your LMS system. So most LMS systems do support plugins or apps to augment your class. While limited, they do allow you to quickly add something that can make your class more engaging. Adding gamification does improve student engagement, so it's worth investing the time to add these events if that's what you're suddenly forced into. Not that you have to use the built-in tools. You can implement your own gamification system. It just may require a little bit more tracking on your part. Gamification, learning to do gamification, is a transferable skill, and as an educator in today's suddenly very tumultuous world, we as educators need to constantly look at expanding our skill sets so for our own well-being and safety. So how do we gamify, or how do we see gamification in the world? Well, gamification has matured rapidly. As I mentioned earlier, the term gamification is a recent development, but we've seen gamification regularly used in everything from points on your credit card to earning points when you fill your gas tank at specific gas stations, to earning game board pieces when you shop at your local grocery store and spend more than $10. This is a very powerful tool that can be used in a variety of situations, whether that's with human resources on onboarding, training that has to be done, whether that's federally mandated or offered through the organization. Gamification helps you prepare and understand how you can help motivate people to be more engaged in whatever it is that they need to learn. And it's not just for education, it is for the real world as well. So consider it, as you are gamifying, that you are developing a brand new skill set that is readily applied in many, many different situations. An outgrowth of gamification, well, probably not an outgrowth, but something that has been around for as long as the concept of gamification has been around, is the use of games for learning. How can we use different styles of games? Now, I teach classes in serious games. It's one of my major areas of research. It's also sometimes referred to as edutainment or games for learning. Have you died of dysentery? Did you learn to type with Mavis Beacon? Did you practice math skills with Math Blaster? Gamification and serious games, while not the same, do complement each other. Gamification is used to add game elements to traditional activities, whereas serious games is the process of creating games for learning. For example, the use of creating a life situation for my class that they then had to create spreadsheets for might be more considered a serious game than it would a gamification, because they did not earn badges or certificates or achievements in that process, but they played a game and had to use the software to show that they're learning. So as I mentioned, I'm currently teaching a class in serious games. We were asked by my college administrators to create interactive lessons for ethics, the goal being to set a base understanding or expected ethical behavior within the college. So we ended up creating two products for them. A tutorial that covered the basics of ethics with gamification added to it, and then we created a game that we called Ethics Court, where students decided if someone has behaved ethically or not. So they are put in the judge situation and given a scenario and have to decide if this was an ethical situation. Did the student before them plagiarize or not plagiarize? Did they cheat or did they not cheat? During the early testing, everyone appreciated the basic version that would include gamification. They thought that, okay, I can gain badges, I can gain awards through this process, but they loved the game. That's where people really got excited about, gee, I can learn about ethics and play a game. Now, we will be pulling all kinds of analytics from this to measure the learning outcomes in the near future, and I hope to be posting on this on one of my blogs or websites, or sharing at a conference on what the results of that are. As was mentioned in the beginning, games are the basis of gamification. Using games to help students learn is a natural way to improve skill mastery and knowledge retention. I've always been amazed at how much effort having 4th and 5th grade students play the Oregon Trail, how much effort they would put into learning about how can I get through the next thing, the next challenge that they were facing. How can I do better at this? The excitement of playing a game for learning is very contagious amongst the students, and the majority find it very rewarding. Our key challenge as educators, though, is to make sure that the students are gaining a learning experience from their game experience. Show how it does relate to what it is that they are learning. So where are we headed with learning? Where are we headed educationally? Let's face it, online learning is here to stay. When it first started becoming available in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was primitive. Let's just, we were at the beginning stages. We were learning how to do that. Even the most resistant to online learning and online education see now that there is a time and a place for this mode of education. You may suddenly find yourself in the situation where you'd never taught an online course before, and you're suddenly teaching all of your students online. All of us are seeing from this experience ways that we could do this better, or questioning, how can we do this better? Being able to apply gamification, being able to apply games for learning is definitely one way of doing that. Our challenge as educators is to find the best possible situation for our students, and that's going to require some work on our part to improve the educational models that we're using. With the sudden change that has happened, we who are teachers and faculty suddenly find ourselves in a very new environment. No longer are we acting in locus parentis. Instead, we're being invited into our students' homes. Instead of worrying about classroom management, lunch duty, recess duty, we can focus on why we became educators, to prepare our students for the future. Our task is now to create exceptional lessons that will fully engage our students, help them to master the fundamentals, and push them to excel. Earlier this year, before any of the current events were even a thought for most people, I wrote an article on the future of e-learning. I saw a convergence of fields, each bringing its own strengths and leaving its weaknesses behind to help students learn and reach their different potentials. At the core of all learning is the concept of communication. It is with conversation in the broadest sense of the word that students learn. By telling stories, by creating scenarios, by creating simulations and challenges, we can create learning situations for our students. So this is a huge area of research that I'm putting a lot of effort in. It's even more important to me now with what's happening. One of the biggest things that we as teachers have to do is make sure that we are communicating with our students and help our students learn to communicate effectively with us. The biggest problem that I see occur with online learning is a lack of communication or a misunderstanding of communication. I might write something or say something in a video to my students that I think is 100% crystal clear. And then by the number of questions that I receive back from them, I know that I have not been as clear as I had thought I was. So communication, those soft skills, are what's one of the critical aspects, but it is in storytelling that we can engage our students. Create a story, creating a scenario helps them to learn and gain mastery of where they need to go. For over the last 10 years, most graduate programs have shifted to online or having an online component as a core part of how the education's happening. While there was already a trend towards undergraduate and even K-12 offering online education in many situations, whether that be for homeschool support, to support those that are having health issues, or just simply a matter of logistics because the student lived too far from a school. The events of the last few months will speed this transition to online learning. I'm not saying this is what's best. I'm not saying that it will be universally adopted, but it is happening, and the last few months will accelerate the trend that we're seeing. You've already taken the first critical steps in this. Change is happening. Online learning is here to stay. And to quote Star Trek, The Next Generation, resistance is futile. We could spend all of our time during this webinar discussing each one of the topics that we've gone over today. This concludes the presentation part of our webinar. If you would like to contact me or further correspond with me, I've got several different methods on the screen that I'm available through contact, but Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Or you can visit one of my websites, Dr. Professor Dad, where I give advice for learning or online learning or just simply surviving at college for college students. My VR Professor, where I'm exploring how we can use virtual reality for learning. Or Burton's Media Group, which is primarily where I've got my textbooks or other media available. Also on the screen, I've posted a few resources for further reading in the area of gamification. James Paul G is one of the best known researchers in this area. He's written several books on the idea of what video games have to teach us about learning and literacy, and good video games plus good learning. I highly recommend his books. They do make a good foundational understanding of what gamification is. And then Lee Sheldon has also written a book called The Multiplayer Classroom. It's a little bit more geared towards traditional classroom and making that more gamified, but it is a great resource